Okay, so we're going to go through setting up an ad group, but I think before we do that, you might want to understand more what an ad group is. So the simplest way to understand it is an ad group is a group of keywords that you want to show for, but that all have a similar theme to them. And the reason you want that is because we actually going to write an ad for that particular for those particular keywords. And let's say we have multiple services. So let's say I did website design and I did Google Ads and I did Facebook ads. Now, if we had to have all of those keywords in the same ad group, and then I would have one ad, and that ad would speak about Facebook ads, and the person's like, oh no, but this doesn't make sense. I looked for a website designer, but this ad is speaking about Facebook ads. So we want our actual ad that we write to be really applicable to the keywords that somebody utilizes. So what we highly recommend is only using about 3 or 4 keywords in one ad group that are all similar in nature. So let us get started with that. So I want to run a an ad group for anybody that's looking for a Google Ads agency. So first want to give it the name of my service. And this is the default bid that we spoke about earlier on. So how much am I willing to pay for a click? So now we might want to say 50 cents. But remember, we are going to go into an auction against our competitors. And depending on the bids, it's going to basically decide on who essentially wins those bids. So we have to be quite realistic. I like to generally start with around about 5 Rand, and then from there I'll just have to look at my account and see whether my ads are showing or not showing. You're not going to pay the maximum amount here. You just need to actually pay, you'll only end up paying more than what the person that is bid under you is paying. So for example, if my competitor is only bidding 1 Rand a bid and I'm bidding 5 Rand a bid, there's a little bit of a calculation that gets put together, but in simplest terms, then we would only pay, let's say, 1 Rand 1 cents to beat our competitor. So I'm going to put in 5 Rand here, and I'm going to start putting in the keywords that I'd like to have. Now, this is the next place that we see a lot of wasted spend. So you can see it says broad match over here, and it's the keyword. Then it has these little punctuation points with the phrase match, and then the brackets over here with exact match. So here is a really good tip. Broad match basically says to us, as long as whatever keyword you put in, as long as Google thinks that it is similar to something else, you're going to show for it. Now, this is exceptionally dangerous. So, for example, let's say you offer landscaping services. So it's fairly like a biggish service to go and do and landscape a garden. However, maybe Google sees somebody puts in their grass cutting services, and then Google decides, oh, well, landscaping and grass cutting is basically the same thing. So then they show your ad for that. So as you can see, this is actually not the service that you offer, but just because Google thinks that those words are close, it ends up showing for it. So we definitely don't want that to happen. So what I highly recommend is you either use phrase match or you use exact match, which will actually match your whatever you put in there a lot closer to what your services are. Or another little trick is, the one thing they don't speak about in here is something called modified broad. And modified broad means that Google generally has to use the keywords that you are putting in there. So for example, I want to show for the words Google Ads Agency. So I'm going to put here Google Ads Agency. So I'm telling Google right now that as long as the person uses the word Google, they use the word ads, and they use the word agency, I want to be able to show for that. However, at this point, I also know that some people don't actually type in Google Ads Agency. Some people type in the word AdWords Agency. Now you'll notice that I haven't just put in it as just Google Ads or just AdWords, because that could allow me to show for people that maybe want to run it themselves or potentially just want to sign into their current account and that's what they're typing into Google. So I want to be a little bit more specific. We call it adding qualifiers to our keywords. So if I know if somebody's typed in Google Ads agency, they're actually looking to outsource their Google Ads to someone. So there's actually another good keyword. So maybe I want to type in Google Ads freelancer. Or maybe people are going to type a Google Ads and then they'll type in outsource. So now I've got all types of keywords that are similar. So as you can see, all of them speak about Google Ads, and they speak about that this person actually wants to use a company for it or wants to outsource it in some way. So I'm happy with that. So that is essentially my first ad group. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That's all good and well. But you know what? I actually also offer Facebook advertising. So I now want to have a new ad group for that particular service. So again, I'm going to go in here and now I'm going to type in, I want to show for Facebook ads. Again, agency. Again, let me start with my default bid of 5 Rand. And now I'm going to take the same approach of using that modified broad, and I'm actually going to take a very much the same approach of what I did earlier on with the Google ads. And I'll type in things like Facebook ads, agency, Facebook ads, freelancer, or Facebook ads, company. So anything where I feel somebody's going to want to actually outsource their Google ads. So now I'm happy with that. You can also see that because you have put in the URL of your website, they've given us some ideas. So I might go to this and say, oh, well, lead generation. Yes, that's actually a keyword I didn't think of. So I'm going to add another ad group here. And I'm going to say, we offer lead generation. So I'm going to put that in. And maybe now what I can do is start getting ideas. So, and I can just add the little plus sign and go lead generation company, B2B lead generation marketing, and I'm happy with all those words and they're very similar to each other. Now the only thing is that it's added it as a broad match, which I'm scared of because it might not be specific enough. So what I would recommend then is either going to add those plus signs, or we can say phrase match, which basically says you've got to show for these keywords, but they're allowed to use another keyword in front or behind it. An exact match is exactly what it means. It means that the people would have to type this exactly how it is. So for example, if somebody wrote lead generation marketing in Cape Town, we wouldn't show for it if we use the exact match. If we use the phrase match and they type lead generation marketing in Cape Town, we would show for it because it's allowing keywords after this. However, if the person wrote lead generation Cape Town marketing, so they put it in between, it's not going to show for it. That is where the little pluses come into play, and this is why I like to use those, because they do allow, it's kind of that good balance between not being too broad but not being too specific. Okay, so I've got my 3 ad groups. They're all standard ad groups and not dynamic. Again, I highly recommend you go with the standard one. The dynamic one is, again, more one of those smart features, and it does take a little bit of extra expertise to utilize it. Now we can save and continue. Okay, so now it's taken us to our ad copy, and we'll be going through that in a moment. Just what I wanted to first show you is that it's got our ad group at the top here, and then you'll see there's our second ad group, and there's our third ad group, and essentially what it's now asking us is to write an ad for that particular ad group, and you can catch that in our next video.